it was presumed suicide, but no one ever really explained it, and no one ever looked into it. And one of the things you're going to find when it comes to this hotel, because of where it's located, people don't care so much. People don't care because it's a bunch of losers, they think. A bunch of derelicts that live and surround this area. So you're going to see that the police don't really care so much when things happen in this hotel, which is sad.
Yeah.
In 1926, July 26, 1934, 55-year-old Louis DeBoer took his life. He was a sergeant in the U.S. Army Medical Corps. His body was found with his throat slit, and he had the razor blade nearby, and letters explain his reasonings of his death.
Got his own throat with a razor blade. That's horrible. One
of the things that was said in the letter was that he was having trouble with his health, but he bequeathed everything he had to some other woman, Miss Eden Hansen, and she was not his wife.
Oh.
So they're wondering also, did he have some marital issues and maybe ashamed? I don't know, but he left everything to not his wife anyway.
That's shitty.
Actually, the first thing that ever happened was in 1927. It was a 50-year-old Percy Ormond cook. He was from Rhode Island. He spent 8 hours, his last 8 hours on the earth at the Cecil. He had sunk into a deep depression, and he had wrote a letter to his wife saying that he was going to kill himself. So apparently he left home and then wrote her a letter and sent it to her. He waited days and weeks, and she never responded, never pleaded with him not to. So he decided he was going to have the courage, he was going to do it. And he says that money can not buy happiness. I tried, and I find it cannot be done. I lost my wife, my son, and my home. And the only thing left for me to do, this is the only thing left for me to do. So this was probably, this is 1927. He lost, I'm sure, everything during Depression. So he decided to check in here. Before he killed himself, he spent $40,000 in the pursuit of happiness. So that would have been like $600,000 today. So he had money. And then he spent it all. Then he decided to check into the Cecil and kill himself. And he was the first documented, and I don't know why I have this out of order, but he was the first documented. It doesn't say. It just said that he lived in misery in the hotel until his last breath.
He lived 8 hours of misery?
Well, no, it was weeks beforehand.
Oh, okay.
His last 8 hours. So he must have checked into the Cecil that day when he killed himself. But it's very strange that people are checking into the Cecil and then just killing themselves.
It might be because the Cecil had this image of being this wonderful place. So
maybe go out that way.
I'm going to go to this wonderful hotel and then kill myself here because this is what I view as this wonderful, most best place ever.
Maybe.
Like, why would you want to go kill yourself in some dump?
I don't know. And a lot of people, they say that many people, people find them in their homes, but a lot of people will go to not their home because they don't want to leave the mess for their family.
Yeah.
Which is sad and awful.
To leave it for some poor maid.
Yeah, some poor maid to find you. March 14th, 1937, Grace Margot fell from the 9th floor. She fell through the telephone wires, and it slowed her just enough that she didn't die right away.
Oh, God.
Now, the man with her said he was sleeping during the time, and the hotel manager at the time confirmed, yes, he was sleeping all the time. However, the hotel manager wasn't in the room. So how would he know? And the police said, okay.
Oh.
That was it. Okay. That's fine.
I was asleep. Oh, yes, he was. Were you in there with him?
I know.
Maybe the hotel manager was sleeping with him.
Yeah, the police took their word for it because they're men.
Yeah.
I'm sure. And no charges were filed. Many people felt that she was shoved out that window.
Yeah, she probably was.
Because there was no reason for her to jump. January 9th, 1938, Roy Thompson, a Marine fireman, went to the 14th floor of the Cecil and jumped. He landed on the building next door on their skylight.
Oh.
Isn't that awful? Can you imagine sitting or being in a building and then some man lands in the sky?
Thud and look up and seeing the remains of a person on the skylight. Did he fall through the skylight?
No, it said he landed on it, so must be some heavy-duty skylight.
Craftsmanship there.
Yeah. May 8th, 1939, U.S. Navy sailor Erwin Nesbitt took a lethal dose of strychnine while staying at the Cecil.
That's not a good way to die. That's an awful, horrific way to die.
I know, it's awful.
Why would you do that to yourself on purpose?
I don't know.
Honestly, if it's between poisoning yourself with strychnine and jumping off the top of a high building, I would jump off the top.
Me
of the
too,
building.
because you're gonna die probably before you hit the. Hopefully, have a heart attack on the way down.
It'd be a real
Quick.
You know what it feels like to fly for a little bit.
Yeah.
At least then you won't be in agonizing pain.
I know.
You die. I mean, it'd be a big mess at the bottom. But...
He was found on the floor, sprawled on the floor with a poison nearby, and a letter to his uncle. But no one knew what it said inside.
Oh,
he lived.
Oh.
Until he got to the hospital, then he passed away. He was stationed in San Diego, so he was stationed, in California at the time, but decided to go to the Cecil to check in to do this. In 1940, a year later, 45-year-old Dorothy Segas, a teacher from Riverside, took poison while in her room. She checked into the Cecil under the name Evelyn Durant, wrote her family she was going to kill herself, and then did it. So she just drove there, got a room, wrote letters to her family, and then just killed herself. It's just crazy that this keeps happening. Every single year there's a suicide in this building. 1947, Elizabeth Sturt, a.k.a. the Black Dahlia, was rumored to have been seen drinking at the Cecil bar days before her unsolved murder. Now, this has been debunked and then brought back up and then debunked again, so I'm not sure. I know that it was true that she had spent time in that area because there were several hotels and bars in that area, but I don't know specifically if they've ever proven it was the Cecil that people saw her in, but she definitely was in the Skid Row area and at a bar right around the time and that was unsolved. That case never was solved.
I know, that's like a famous cold case.
Yes.
There are people, and I don't, you have that morbid curiosity where you can look up the autopsy pictures and the crime scene pictures of her. And they're black and white. I mean, they're some of the earliest crime scene photos other than the Jack the Ripper case.
Right.
There are people that get her autopsy photograph tattooed on themselves.
That's creepy, man.
And I'm like, I don't like that.
I don't like that either. And I'll talk a little bit about some kind of creepy things that people are just weird,
If somebody murders me in a horrific way like that, and somebody tattoos it on themselves, you have my permission to go with a razor blade and shave it off their body.
I will totally do that.
Please do that.
I will.
And tell them, Margaret gave me permission before she
doesn't want you having this. Come right at him.
Tell him. Punch him right in the face.
Yes. October 1947, Robert Smith, no, not the Robert Smith from The Cure.
Aw, I got all excited.
I know you did.
Kelly saw the look in my eye. What?
He was 35 and he fell.
He's not that old, Margaret.
He's not that old. That was 1947. He was 35.
Yeah, no.
Maybe he is a vampire. Maybe it really happened.
That's why he's so white.
Yes.
It's not makeup, Margaret. He's a vampire.
He fell from the 7th floor of the building.
He is a vampire.
He is a vampire. He lived. Robert Smith's still singing.
He is.
Going back to 1944, I don't know why are these out of order. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Dorothy Purcell decided to leave her family in Iowa.
I think 46 years my mom was born.
44 is my dad.
And my mom and my dad.
She decided to leave her family in Iowa and to take up a job in the defense sector during World War II in California. She was only 19. In late August of that year, she was very pregnant. She checked into the Cecil with a 38-year-old.
During World War II, isn't it?
Yep. With a 38-year-old shoe salesman named Ben Levine. They posed as a married couple probably because it would have been very,
yes,
not good if they didn't.
Right.
September 3rd, Dorothy experienced, so they're in the Cecil in the room. She started experiencing labor pains. She didn't wake up Ben. She didn't get a medical attention. She decided to go to the bathroom and deliver the baby herself. She managed to cut off or tie off the umbilical cord and cut it. And she said that her son was laying lifeless in her arms. She believed it was a stillborn. She took the baby. She left her room. She went up a floor above hers, went to an open window, and threw the baby out.
I'm gonna puke.
Like, my brain can't even wrap around this.
I can't.
Then she went back to her room, like nothing happened, went back into bed. The baby was found on the roof of the building next door. His broken body, obviously not alive. And Ben and Dorothy were taken into custody by the police. A murder investigation started, obviously, because they found a dead baby. Coroner autopsy found that the baby's lungs had been inflated with air. Therefore, the baby was alive before it died.
That's heartbreaking.
He said that he probably needed just some vigorous, you know how they sometimes have to rub their backs, really get them vigorous, like, touches and, like, slapping their butts and stuff. That's something they used to do. But some vigorous agitation on the body, and the baby probably would have cried. Her defense said that she was so emotionally traumatized with the ordeal and had temporary insanity. The jury agreed and felt sanity that she had now sane again. She could walk free, so she did. Which I don't know. Like, who knows if she really thought her baby was dead. Why would you go throw it out a window, though? I can't, unless you're really, like, so messed up in the head.
It's like one of those things where you have to think about the time. And, like, for the time.
Yeah. She wasn't married. She was a 19-year-old girl. I mean,
and, you know, the man she was with might have been married.
He could have been. And he could, and they said that he wasn't the father. But why would he do that? Why did he put his neck out on the line like that?
He probably wasn't.
Yeah.
And I think that, she might not have had a lot of options. And she might have thought the baby was dead and been like, she might have thought, you know, this is an easy end to a hard situation. And just got rid of it so she didn't have to deal with it. Because even if she gave birth to the baby and it was dead, what would she have done with it? You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, if she was alive, she could have just went and dropped it off at a hospital.
Yes.
Or at a church.
Or a fire station. Or
right, and that might be what she was planning on to do. But you don't know. I mean, in this day and age, she would have been convicted.
Oh, for sure.
Definitely. But, I mean, in the time, they looked at women different. Mm-hmm. Not that...
They were fragile. They couldn't handle things.
And not that was true, but also women were not treated as equals either. You know what I mean? It was like, for the time, it probably was an accurate sentence. You know what I mean? And I don't know. Like, she very well could have thought her baby was not alive, and she very much could have been traumatized and not even thinking, and that was her response to it. I don't know. You don't know.
It's awful. The whole thing's terrible. I can't. Maybe sit to my stomach.
I need the thought of it. It's just like, oh my god, I can't even imagine. I can't.
No, and I read it. I'm like, she what? Whoa. She what? She just walked up to her baby out the window.
She did what? What'd she do?
What? And then went back to bed. But it's a sign of a sane person, like that. Like, you weren't sane. You could not have been insane in that moment. And to throw the baby out the window, you could have put it in a dumpster. You could have done anything, but that was your first instinct. I don't know. It's just crazy. Not that any of that's good at all. But
the actions are not of somebody in their right mind.
No, they were not.
I would agree with that.
October 22nd, 1954. A stationery worker, Helen Gern, ended her life by jumping from room 704 1 week after arriving in L.A. She checked into the Cecil with an alias, Molly Brown, a.k.a. She used the unsinkable Molly Brown.
I was going to say, that's the unsinkable Molly Brown from the Titanic.
When she jumped from the room, she landed on the hotel's marquee. Just landed right on the marquee. Obviously, people were gathered around, and the fire department had to come and lift her body off the marquee with their ladder truck. It's horrifying. And no one knew why. She never left any reasoning. Yeah, it's awful. February 11th, 1962.
Witnessing something like that would traumatize me forever.
Can you imagine?
I can't. I can't even... I would not. I would never recover from something like that.
And then I'm sorry if it happened. I don't think I would have ran over and looked.
I would not.
But people do that.
If it happened in front of me, I would never be the same person.
No,
ever again.
I can't even imagine.
I can't either.
And I'll show pictures. So you can see the marquee is not. It's just letters.
It's just in front of the building, right?
Yeah.
Like the sidewalk.
Well, no, she was on the sign.
Oh.
The sign of the building she's landed on, but you'll see that there's not a lot depth to that sign, so she must have skimmed the building all the way down and write on those letters.